Hello and welcome to the Results with Ronnie podcast series, episode 23. Can you be friends with your ex? My name is Ronnie Walker, master coach of exceptional relationships and sex, and we're going to dive into this subject a little bit because it is a question that consistently comes up in my consultation and coachings, and just in general. You'll find in speaking to friends and family that are dealing with past relationships. And it's funny because the conversation can be heated, civil, based on the experiences of the given person discussing this. Now, this episode is brought to you by MrRelationshipMan.com and our new sponsor, Balance with Diana J. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram, but I strongly suggest you go to YouTube, where you'll see many episodes of talking about relationship in many different facets. The conversations and questions asked are deep, thought-provoking, and very, very informative. I strongly suggest you go over to Balance with Diana J on YouTube, listen, and of course subscribe so that you get a notification when she does new episodes. And now for our subject. Can you be friends with your ex? Well, the short answer is yes. But before we go into why some people can be friends with their ex, let's discuss the reasons exes are not friends. If you look at the reasons that a relationship or marriage is no longer working, based on the studies that you may see, it's between one of two things: lack of money and infidelity. And it's not just infidelity on the surface, it's the fact that what happens once an infidelity is found out. It's the trust that's broken. And once the trust is broken, for many, it's hard to regain. Some will argue that trust can be repaired and broken, forgiveness given, and at the very least, although the relationship itself, from an intimate level, can be repaired, friendship can possibly exist. But for those that the ending of a trust is a non-factor, well then, they can't be friends. Then you have children that come into play. And how is that? Well, children sometimes, in the breakups of a marriage, relationships, and the custody, whether someone believes it's fair or unfair, plays a huge part in whether the couple can be friends or not friends. And so that lends itself to possibly just dealing with each other, just in terms of the children. One can't stand each other, or maybe they both are holding some form of animosity towards each other. Then you have spousal support. Now we know the majority, men are the one paying the spousal support, but of course you have instances where the ex-wife is paying spousal support. And if it's determined or one believes it's unfair, well then you can kiss any type of friendship goodbye. It's just a matter of just sending the check in the mail and then moving on with their lives. Another reason is a new person, or persons, if it's both, enters the new relationship. And those new individuals are not going to condone any form of friendship. They feel that the time dedicating to maintain that relationship should be put toward the relationship with him. Now, there are times when pushback happens But then you have to ask, do you want to be in a relationship or do you want to be right? What's more important to you? If the new relationship and respect for that person that they feel that they deserve is a priority, then the chance of a friendship with the ex or that budding friendship is no longer going to happen. Another reason they don't be friends is because there have been some attempts at a relationship, or in this case a friendship, and the actions of the two pretty much mimic a relationship without the accountability of a committed relationship. Now, some try, but in most cases it doesn't work out, and they feel that it's just best that they go their own ways. Also, there are those that believe that once an ex, always an ex. And so with that being said, if there is no extenuating circumstances, aka children or business dealings, then there's no need to be a friend. Now, that doesn't mean one may try, but again, we're going back to the reasons of the breakup. Because some people try to say, let's just be friends, because they know they were wrong. And they use that as some form of softening the accountability or the actions that they need to take or is required of them to show some form of remorse for the relationship being destroyed. But again, there's no need to be friends. Also, too, one of them may feel that in order for them to heal properly, if they're seeking therapy or coaching, that during this time they realize in their growth that it really doesn't benefit them to have them as a friend, especially if they have no ties together. They'd rather just move on with their life. Now, sometimes there may be some reconnection, and they may keep in touch off and on, but there really isn't any effort put forth by either party to maintain some form of a friendship. You see, in the breakup of a relationship, some would argue that it goes through something that normally is reserved for the passing of a loved one. Like we call it the stages of grief. 7 stages to be specific. And in those 7 stages, you have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Now that's 5. And for others, there's 7. So let's think about that. You have the denial. And denial comes in because the person really has a challenge of accepting that this person broke the covenant of the commitment in the relationship. They both agree that I am for you, you are for me, that we are one, you are my Boaz, and now we're going to ride off into the sunset, a fulfillment of each other's purpose, meeting our needs, addressing each other's love language. And for whatever reason, it was broken. In the beginning, it's really hard for a person to really wrap their mind around that. They says, no, maybe I'm not saying it the way it may appear. Even though in many cases, the proof is right there in front of them. Well, you see, after denial comes the anger. This comes at a point when they feel that they can no longer accept the denial. And this time they become frustrated. Anything that person says triggers them. It can be very, very ugly. Be it in person, on the phone. Maybe there are certain songs, and you know how that works. In a breakup, you're turning your radio or eating their favorite food or a different restaurant. It just triggers anger in that person. And then there's bargaining in the relationship in that stage, where you're trying to say, look, is there some sort of a chance that we can work on this? Some form of forgiveness. It's usually at this time when a person is asking, let's just be friends. It's really, really intense. Not just for the person that's committed the wrong, but the person receiving. Especially if they believe that the person that wronged them is not really feeling or accepting of the damage done to the relationship. Then you have the depression. And people really express this in a number of ways. They begin to say, like, why even bother? I'm tired. This is my third or fourth marriage, third or fourth relationship. And it really takes them to a deep, dark place. I put all my hope and faith in this person, and this is what happens. And at some point, if they're really doing the work on themselves, you come to acceptance, where there may be some forgiveness, and there may not be some forgiveness, some form of forgiveness. But due to the work that they've done on themselves, they really truly believe that, you know what, this relationship or any form of trying to fix it is not worth my effort. This also usually happens when they believe that they're the only ones that's trying to work on it. Or sometimes the other person is working on it, but the person wrong no longer feels the energy is worth it for them. So they rather just let whatever connection just dissolve, and they're going to move on. And sometimes with some intentions, they want to move forward and say, you know what, I need to work on me. I really need to process all that has happened and work through this without the presence of this person, the voice of this person. And again, it's during this time that they find that I'm just going to move on. I'm going to wish you well. I forgive you, or in this case not. But this whole friend thing, it's not really what's going to serve me right now. So in a nutshell, those are just a few of the reasons why exes don't become friends. So really, why would someone want to be friends with their ex? Well, sometimes they both have come to the realization that they were not as compatible or they worked together as good as they thought they would. And believe it or not, this happens more times than is shared in certain circles. There was no infidelity. There was no breaking of trust. They just realized that maybe it was good at the time it happened, but as some people like to say, the relationship has had its season. There's a few lessons learned about the other person, and more importantly about themselves, that realize that, you know what, he or she is not the person I want to ride off into the sunset with. And the feeling is usually mutual. And so they decide that at the very least, they're going to be friends. And that's a beautiful thing. You know, the intimacy is gone. They accept it for what it is. And maybe because they have a lot of mutual friends, they get along with each other's family. It's just something that they're able to maintain. Just a friendship. Even when they're going off into starting and cultivating a new relationship, during the dating phase of that new person, they share that. And you know what? Based on how it's communicating, and of course the security, of the other person's feelings, they have no problem with that. Another reason people become friends that are exes, because of children and co-parenting. They feel it's best in the raising of a child to see them getting along. So they put whatever differences they have aside. Again, learn the lessons. They've had a sit down and mature conversation, and in many cases, multiple conversations. But they realize that they're going to come together for the sake of the child. Again, nothing intimate. Sometimes it's just cordial. Other times they really are good friends. They get a good laugh out of it, and they move on and co-parent. And that's usually sometimes the case in business. If they're able to rebuild this trust that was broken, there are those people who come together and they feel for the greater good that they can be friends. Let bygones be bygones. Now, are there numbers that could say that these people are equal to those who have not become friends? Well, maybe there are numbers or some studies done. I haven't seen them. But I'd like to believe that there are more exes that are friends that aren't. See, sometimes the result of not being friends is you'll find men and women, they'll generalize and jeopardize future relationships because they think all men are bad or they think all women are bad. And that usually comes along in the anger or sometimes the depression stage if you're dealing with the grief of this particular relationship that's no longer when they were intimate. There are those who understand and have learned the lessons from the dissolving of this relationship. And it's really not worth them to fight. And for their healing, they're going to forgive. And sometimes a friendship is maintained. Never to be intimate again, but they are friends. Heck, I've coached couples where, you'll get them trying to hook each other up with somebody else. I mean, the stories abound between exes, from the extreme anger to jokes and laughs about the relationship no longer being what they thought it was going to be, and decided to move on. Now, I'm sure to all those that are listening that you have your own story. You think that you could never be friends with your ex, and that's your right. And there are those who are listening to this who are friends with their ex. Now, based on, again, the reasons for the relationship ending vary. If you look at your past relationships, maybe you're only friends with one, and the other two you never want to hear from again. For some, it's 2 of the 3. Others, it's 3 of the 3. So again, it's not sometimes as much what happened, but how you perceived what happened and how you choose to move forward on in your life. So is the person wrong for not wanting to be friends with their ex? Listen, there really is no right or wrong. It's really up to that person. And far be it from Ronnie to judge a person for not wanting to be friends with their ex. Especially when you've heard as many stories as I've heard in terms of the breakup of said relationships. Trust me, I've heard some doozies. And while trying to maintain a very neutral corner in all of this, I have to honor and respect the position that person takes in that past relationship. So if they choose to be friends, great. If they choose not to be friends, great. So think about it, especially for those of you in a relationship. Maybe that's a question you can ask yourself. This is some form of hypothetical. What would have to happen if the relationship you're currently in broke up? What would have to happen for you to want to be friends with your ex? And what would have to happen for you no longer to want to be friends with your ex? Now, I don't want you to take this exercise and then take it to extremes and creating any form of suspicions in your relationship. It's just food for thought, just something to think about if you have time, and if you don't, that's fine. I believe we're built for relationships. Different relationships. Platonic, intimate, business. Part of being in the world of self-love is about the relationships you can maintain. But also growth is accepting that there are those friends that will no longer be in your life for various reasons. And you accepting that is key. So, if you have any questions, reach out to me at Ronnie with resultswithronnie.com. Again, that's Ronnie at resultswithronnie.com. I'd love to hear your input, or you can leave in the comment section of this podcast. Now, this is pretty much a short and sweet one, but again, just food for thought. Could you be friends with your ex? Or are you friends with your ex? Love to hear your story. Feel free to share it with me or share it with us in the comment section. So until again, my name is Ronnie Walker, your master coach of exceptional relationships and sex. And this podcast is brought to you by MrRelationshipMan.com and the new sponsor, Balance with Diana J, on YouTube. Once again, listen, subscribe, and as well, you can find me on YouTube on Results with Ronnie Radio on YouTube, Official Ronnie Walker on Instagram, and you can also find me on Facebook. Link, listen, subscribe. A lot of great podcasts are on there for you to tune into. More food for thought. And as always, I love your input. I'll take your criticisms, and I'll take the compliments as well. So I wish you well in your relationship if you're in one. I'm wishing you the best if you're currently dating. And for those of you who are having some challenges either way, well, then reach out to me at resultswithronnie.com and set up a consultation and coaching. I'd be more than happy to get you in the mindset that you need to find the person you're looking for. And if there's some form of transformation that you may need in your relationship, sometimes it's just needing a little tweak that you're having some challenges to get to there, just reach out to me. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to working with you. So without any further ado, I'd like to say thank you. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening. And until again, have a great day.